All right, so we are now on the second communication strategy that I'm going to share with you today. And the acronym for that is IPA WIN. And this strategy is for when you're asking for what you want from somebody and you kind of know this person and you kind of know that, if you're going to ask for this particular thing, it may not have such a favorable response. And so you want to increase the likelihood, number one, that you're heard and understood, but then number two, that you actually get what you want, or at least something close to what you're wanting. And this is important to have this skill because I mentioned in the other video, like if you're always the one giving, you're always the one sacrificing, you're always the one putting your needs aside in order to attend to the needs of the other person in the relationship, whether that's a professional relationship or a personal relationship, like that doesn't last very long. No one can just keep giving and not feel like they're being taken advantage of at some point. It's not gonna, that relationship's not gonna work. So unfortunately, sometimes the people that you might be in a relationship with aren't, they're not great about, like intuitively knowing what you want or what you need in order to be happy and fulfilled in the relationship. And there are seasons, there are seasons where you're giving a little bit more, and then there are seasons where you need a little bit more. So it doesn't have to be 50-50 all the time, but at some point you're gonna have some things that you're gonna need to ask for, and so you may as well do it in a way that's skillful and has a good chance of being heard, especially if the person you're in the relationship with has some some of their own difficulties that make them more likely to not want to give you what you want. Okay, so if that is the case, then using this this strategy can be a very wise idea. So let's go through each letter and I'll explain what they stand for and kind of how to frame things. And it's important for both of these strategies that, like the LEG strategy, often you're kind of doing that on the fly, like in the moment when a conversation is starting to escalate. Sometimes, and later we'll talk about de-escalation strategies where you might need to call a timeout if things are getting heated and kind of have a chance to go calm down, and that might be when you want to switch to the LEG strategy. And by then you probably heard them, so maybe you can just kind of play back the conversation of what you heard and try and think, okay, what was the underlying basic human God-given need that they had, and can I endorse that, and is there some kind of a goal that I could communicate to them now that I've had time to think about it, reflect about it, calm down a little bit, because maybe you got a little bit upset too. So if you have time, you can get your response, your repair attempt into that kind of a format, so you'll have some time to think about it. With IPA WIN, you'll definitely have time to think about it because you know what you want, you're going to have to ask, and so you'll have time to plan when you're going to ask and what you're going to say. And so in either case, you don't want your like there's the L, the E, and the G, or the I, P, A, and then WIN. Like each letter stands for a step in the communication technique, and you don't want it to be like a paragraph worth of information or a page worth of information for each step in the communication technique. It should be like one or two sentences. That's it. So it's kind of short, sweet, to the point. Not a lot of room for miscommunication. You really want to boil it down, okay? So the I in IPA WIN stands for issue. So this is where you're describing the issue just in a nutshell. You're not at this point introducing your feelings or your opinions into it. You are just describing the situation as it is in as neutral a way as you possibly can, okay? So let's use the example of somebody who's asking for a raise at work, okay, or a promotion. So it might be like, I've been working here for 2 years and I haven't had a promotion. Okay? And that's it. That just describes it in a nutshell. Perspective. This is where you then, once you've described the facts, this is where you then share what you think or feel about it. So, I've worked here for 2 years and I haven't had a promotion. I think it's time for me to have a promotion, and I'm convinced that if I'm worth it, I'm worth this new role. I'm ready for it, something like that. Assert. This is where you tell the other person what you want in a calm, kind tone. So you're not being demanding, you're not table pounding, you're not getting in anyone's face. You're just making a nice, gentle request. So I would like to be considered for this new position, or I would like an increase in pay. That's the assert part. And then the win is you describing how them giving you what you're asking for is actually a win-win for both of you. So if I get this promotion, if I get this increase in pay, then I'm going to be really happy coming at work. I'm going to feel like I'm valued as an employee, and like I'm an important part of this team. And so I'm going to work harder. I'll probably be more effective in my role. And I won't have to look elsewhere for employment where people I know are going to value the experience and the perspective and the skill set that I bring. So you'll be able to retain me. You won't have to find anybody new. Okay? So here's what I'm asking for in a very gentle way, very kind way, very calm way. And here's how it's win-win for us both. Now, it's important that once you make your ask, you need to be willing to negotiate a bit. You ask for a $5,000 raise, maybe you get a $3,000 raise. You ask for a promotion, this quarter, well, maybe it's next quarter. Be willing to negotiate, but you want to maintain your ask. Don't let them get you off subject or introduce other elements into the conversation that take away from the ask that you're making. So stay focused, be willing to negotiate, but at least this gives you the best possible chance of being heard, understood, and having your request granted without arousing a dysregulated, angry, defensive type of response from the person that you're asking for. All right? So that is IPA win. And I hope that it's useful for you and hope that it's useful for your future clients. All right, so in the next video, we are going to talk about the triad time where you're going to get to practice these communication strategies. And so I'll see you there.